Om-Jnana-Timandasya Jnana-Slakya Sakshan-Militam Yena Tasmai Shri-Gurave Namah. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna-Pastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namini Namaste Saraswata Devi Gauravani Pacharne Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paskacharya Desatarane Srila Prabhupada Ki. So, could I get permission please to share the screen?
Yes.
Yeah, it doesn't happen. Anyway, we will start with chapter 13, third canto, the appearance of Lord Varaha. So I will read text 1. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Shri Sukha Uvacha Nisamya Vacham Vadato Mune Punyatamam Nipa Bhuya Pavachakaravyo Vasudeva Katadrita. Sri Sukadeva Goswami said, O king, after hearing all these most virtuous topics from the sage Maitreya, Vidura inquired further on the topics of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which he adored to hear. So, Vidura, he desires to hear that.
Recording in progress.
So, Krishna is in the Srimad Bhagavatam, and Vidura took deeply shelter in the hearing of the Bhagavatam. So that's the process to associate constantly with Krishna. And he liked to hear. In the purport, we have the word adritaha, that the word adrita is significant because it indicates that Vidura had a natural inclination for hearing the transcendental message of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he was never fully satisfied, though continuing to hear those topics. He wanted to hear more and more so that he could be more and more blessed by the transcendental message. So Vidura desired to hear more about the transcendental message of the Supreme Personality of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is what this dialogue between Vidura and Maitreya Muni, what this was, why this was kept going. It was the inquisitive of Vidura that kept it going. We make another attempt to share the screen. Let's see what happens. Yeah, here we are. Text 2. Vidura Uvacha Savai Svayambhuva Samrat Priya Putra Svayambhuva Padilapya Priyam Patnim Kim Shakara Tato Muni. Vidura said, O great sage, what did Svayambhuva, the dear son of Brahma, do after obtaining his very loving wife? So, Vidura, in the previous verse, that he wanted the blessings of Maitreya Muni. So the blessings are in the instructions of the spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada said. The instructions are the practical manifestation of the Lord's instructions. If we pray to Krishna and the Srimad Bhagavatam, so mercy will come. Srila Prabhupada says that. So text 2 and 3, we read 2, 3. O best of the virtuous, the original kings of kings, Manu, was a great devotee of the personality of Godhead Hari, and thus it is worth hearing of his sublime character and activities. Please describe them. I am very eager that so Srimad Bhagavatam, the purport says that is full of transcendental topics of the personality of Godhead and his pure devotees. In absolute world, there is no difference in quality between the Supreme Lord and his pure devotee. Therefore, hearing the topics of the Lord and hearing of the character of the activities of a pure devotee have the same result, namely the development of devotional service. So there is no difference in quality between the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his pure devotee. Hearing the topics of the Lord and hearing the character and activities of a pure devotee have the same result, namely development of devotional service. So Vidura is asking what happened next. In the previous chapter we heard of Brahma with his ups and downs, that so he created good sons, then bad sons, again good and again bad, went up and down, and at the end of the chapter he created the first human beings, Manu, human being, Svayambhavu Manu and Satarupam. And he was very happy. They will help with the population of the universe. But Vidura is asking what happened next, because what happened next? So Brahma will be confronted with an obstacle, and he will say, I cannot solve that problem. The Supreme Lord will have to do that. And that's what this chapter is about. The Lord will appear in his form of Varaha. So in the following purports, Srila Prabhupada speaks not only about the importance of hearing about Krishna, but also about hearing of the devotees of Krishna. So text 4. Persons who hear from a spiritual master with great labor and for a long time, they must hear from the mouth. Just a moment. I get the right verse here. Text 13. So, persons who hear from a spiritual master with great labor and for a long time must hear from the mouth of pure devotees about the character and activities of pure devotees. Pure devotees always think within their hearts of the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead, who awares is devotees' liberation. So, the purpose Srila Prabhupada speaks about hearing from the spiritual master about the activities of the Lord, and also the transcendental qualities of the devotees. The qualities of the devotees were constantly thinking of the lotus feet of the Lord within their hearts. So a pure devotee, what's a pure devotee? A pure devotee is someone who cannot be separated from the lotus feet of the Lord for a moment. Thinks always about the Lord. Therefore he has no false ego. That he sees everything in relation with the Lord, which is a vision of reality. So, but Srila Prabhupada makes a point, worship of a devotee is more potent than worship of the Lord. It is therefore the duty of the transcendental students to hear of pure devotees, as explained by similar devotees of the Lord, because one cannot explain about the Lord or his devotees unless one happens to be a pure devotee himself. So, it's an important purport that, and yeah, just a moment here, because the thing is on the screen. I display it, but I cannot see the whole text on the screen. Here it's difficult. So I have also the book. So, what was important in this purport of this text form? First, always constantly thinking of the lotus feet of the Lord. So, who amongst us always think of the lotus feet of the Lord? It's a high level. And realize the presence of the Lord also in difficult circumstances. Seeing the loving hand of the Supreme Lord in difficult circumstances, that's a pure devotee. Good or bad, it's all the mercy of the Lord. That was pure, because good and bad does not exist in Vaikuntha. It's all good. The devotional service to the Lord is all good. There is no bad. Therefore it's transcendental, above the good and the bad of this world. And these pure devotees are above that. Pure devotees perceive the presence of the Lord in every circumstance. Therefore they can always see the Lord in their hearts. Always seeing the Lord in the heart. It's a pure devotee. It's like in Shrutadev, chapter 86 of the 10th canto. Krishna went to visit him. He was a poor Brahmin. And Shrutadev said to Krishna, for years I've seen you in my heart. And since I came to this material world, you have been with me in the heart. But now after so many births, now I see you in person before me. So Shrutadev was a pure devotee. Saw Krishna always in the heart. Yeah. Prema pumartamaham. We need deep qualifications for this. Qualification, premancha churiti bhakti vilochanena. Eyes always decorated with love of God. And we cannot feel satisfied unless we achieve this. It is impossible to feel satisfied without achieving this love for Krishna. So now we are going to text 5. So Vidura wants to hear more about activities of a pure devotee. Text 5. Sri Sukadev Goswami said, the personality of Goddess Sri Krishna was pleased to place his lotus feet on the lap of Vidura, because Vidura was meek and gentle. The sage Maitreya was very pleased with Vidura's words. Being influenced by his spirit, he attempted to speak. Can someone read the purport, please? It's a short one. Whoever wants.
I can read, Maharaj.
Please, Nilamani Prabhu.
Yes. The word Sahasra Shrina is very significant. One who has diverse energies and activities and a wonderful brain is known as the Sahasra Shishna. Qualification is applicable only to the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, and no one else. The personality of Godhead was pleased to dine sometimes with Vidura at his home, and while resting he placed his lotus feet on the lap of Vidura. Maitreya was inspired by the thought of Vidura's wonderful fortune. The hairs on his body stood on end, and he was pleased to narrate the topics of the personality of Godhead with great delight.
So Vidura placed his lotus feet, Krishna placed his lotus feet on Vidura's lap. And Vidura massaged his lotus feet. This is in the Mahabharata. That so when Duryodhana offered Krishna opulent food, Krishna refused, and he went to the house of Vidura. So yes, text 6 and 7. The sage Maitreya said to Vidura, after this appearance, Manu, the father of mankind, along with his wife, thus addressed the reservoir of Vedic wisdom, Brahma, with obeisances and folded hands. So, text 7. You are the father of all living entities and the source of their subsistence, because they are all born of you. Please order us, we may be able to render service unto you. So a father's duty is to bring up the son until he's grown, and when the son is grown up, it is duty to render service to the father. Yes. This doesn't happen usually in modern society, but that is the system. Very difficult in Kali Yuga. Text 8. O worshipful one, please give us your direction for the execution of duty within our working capacity, so that we can follow it for fame in this life and progress in the next. Can someone read the entire purport, please?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, could I read?
Yes, please, Ambika.
Thank you. Brahma is the direct recipient of Vedic knowledge from the personality of Godhead, and anyone discharging his entrusted duties in disciplic succession from Brahma is sure to gain fame in this life and salvation in the next. The disciplic succession from Brahma is called the Brahma Sampradaya, and it descends as follows: Brahma, Narada, Vyasa, Madhava Muni, Purnapragya, Padmanabha, Nrihari, Madhava, Akshobhaya, Jayatirtha, Janasintu, Dayanitha, Vidyanithu, Rajendra, Jayadharma, Purushottama, Brahmanyatirtha, Vyasatirtha, Lakshmipati, Madhavendra Puri, Ishvara Puri, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Svarup Damodar, and Sri Rupa Goswami and others, Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, Krishna Das Goswami, Narottam Das Goswami, Vishwanath Chakravarti, Jagannath Das Babaji, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Gaurakishore Das Babaji, Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. This line of disciplic succession from Brahma is spiritual, whereas the genealogical succession from Manu is material, but both are on the progressive march towards the same goal of Krishna consciousness.
So that's very interesting. So this is a father-son relationship with Brahma, because they wanted to follow the orders of Brahma. They get spiritual benefit, although it is not a spiritual line of succession. But they were on a march towards the same goal of Krishna consciousness. But of course, such a relationship, submissive relationship between father and son, is very rare in Kali Yuga. But the essence of this purpose is anyone discharging his entrusted duties in the disciplic successor of Brahma is sure to gain fame in this life and salvation in the next. So that if we do our duties in the disciplic succession, we are in that disciplic succession. Srila Prabhupada mentioned all the previous acharyas in our line. So if we follow Srila Prabhupada's instructions, we are sure to get fame in this life and salvation in the next. Interesting text 9. Text 9. Just a moment. The screen. Lord Brahma said, "My dear son, O Lord of the world, I am very pleased with you, and I desire all blessings for both you and your wife. You have, without reservation, surrendered yourself unto me with your heart for my instructions." So, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada speaks about his father and son relationship. Can someone read this purport, please?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, may I read?
Yes, please.
The relationship between the father and the son is always sublime. The father is naturally disposed with good will towards the son, and he is always ready to help the son in his progress in life. But in spite of father's goodwill, the son is sometimes misguided because of his misuse of personal independence. Every living entity, however small or big he may be, has the choice of independence. If the son is unreservedly willing to be guided by the father is 10 times more eager to instruct and guide him by all means. The father and son relationship as exhibited here in the dealings of Brahma and Manu is excellent. Both the father and the son are well qualified, and their example should be followed by all humankind. Manu, the son, unreservedly asked the father, Brahma, to instruct him, and the father, who was full of Vedic wisdom, was very glad to instruct. The example of the father of mankind may be rigidly followed by mankind, and that will advance the cause of the relationship of fathers and sons.
So, the father and son relationship as exhibited in the dealings of Brahma and Manu is excellent. It's exemplary. Manu the son unreservedly asked the father Brahma to instruct him, and the father was very glad to instruct. These are the two sides. The father is qualified to instruct, and the son is submissive. But you don't find that in Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga means damned if you do and damned if you don't. It's such a difficult age. But it is supposed to be like this. So such a relationship between father and son is very rare in Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga attacks this relationship. That's the word of Kali. But we learn from the purport here, Srila Prabhupada really wanted to re-spiritualize the entire world. So text 10. So we will have discussions after this section. Otherwise we are going to break the story. But we will, in half an hour, have questions. So text 10. O hero, moment, that's better. O hero, your example is quite befitting, a son in relationship with his father. This sort of adoration for the superior is required. One who is beyond the limit of envy and who is sane accepts the order of his father with great delight and executes it to his full capacity. So we have seen the first sons Brahma created, the 4 Kumaras. And what did they say? We will follow your order. No, they say, yet we don't. The 4 Kumaras' disobedience, however, was for a higher purpose. And therefore they were free from the reactions of disobedience. But Kali Yuga makes every authority corrupt. The father, the government. How difficult it is to preach in Kali Yuga. You say that I have to be obedient to my father, but my father is like this, he did that. But yes, very difficult. Text 11. Since you are my very obedient son, I ask you to beget children qualified like yourself. In the womb of your wife, rule the world in pursuance of the principles of devotion service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and thus worship the Lord by the performance of Jagya. So, the purpose of the material creation by Brahma is clearly described here. Every human being should beget nice children in the womb of his wife as a sacrifice for the purpose of worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead in devotional service. So, we have 3 principles here, 3 instructions. That first, get qualified children, he says to Manu. Second thing is, you rule the world. Third thing, that's your service. And the third point is, you perform Jagya. And you teach in this way. So 3 instructions. So the purpose of the material creation by Brahma is described here. Every human being should beget nice children in the womb of his wife as a sacrifice for the purpose of worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead by devotional service. So in the purport here, I think there's a quote here. This text 11. So can someone read the last paragraph, starting with Vishnu worship is the ultimate aim of human life?
Hare Krishna.
Okay. Vishnu worship is the ultimate aim of human life. Those who take the license of married life for sense enjoyment must also take the responsibility to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, and the first stepping stone is the Varnashramadharma system. Varnashramadharma is the systematic institution for advancing in worship of Vishnu. However, if one directly engages in the process of devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it may not be necessary to undergo the disciplinary system of Varnashramadharma. The other sons of Brahma, the Kumaras, directly engaged in devotional service, and thus they had no need to execute the principles of Varnashramadharma.
So, Vishnu worship is the ultimate goal of life. The stepping stone towards that here described is Varnashram Dharma. And of course, what's the goal of Varnashram Dharma? It's Haritoshanam, to please the Supreme Lord. But if one directly engages in the process of devotional service to the Supreme Personality of God, means not going to this Varnashram, it may not be necessary to undergo the system of Varnashram Dharma. Because the Kumaras, they directly engaged in devotional service, and thus they had no need to execute the principles of Varnashram Dharma. So, text 12. O King, if you can give proper protection to the living beings in the material world, that will be the best service for me. When the Supreme Lord sees you to be a good protector of the conditioned souls, certainly the Master of all senses will be very pleased with you. So our material existence will be finished when we accept that we are not the center of existence. We think in Kali Yuga ourselves the center of material existence. So, but the question is, how to get Krishna to be pleased with us? This is the meditation of one who performs Bhagavad Dharma or devotional service. How is Krishna to get pleased with us? So, a few points of the purport. The whole administrative system is arranged for the purpose of going back home, back to Godhead. That's the first point. And the Manu Samhita directs all activities towards the transcendental service of the Lord. It is the duty of a king to see personally that the citizens under him are being trained in Vishnu worship. So the conditioned souls are meant not to satisfy their material senses, but to satisfy the senses of Rishikesh, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And one who does not know this is a show bottle administration. The Srila Prabhupada explains here in the purport the responsibility of the leaders to protect them against sin and assist them in going forward in spiritual life to the Varnashram system. So, of course, it's a responsibility of the leaders to protect against sin, but in Kali Yuga, everyone is unprotected. So in text 13, Brahma continues to explain how to rule the kingdom. 13. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Janardhan, Lord Krishna, is a form to accept all the results of sacrifice. If he is not satisfied, then one's labor for advancement is futile. He is the ultimate self, and therefore one who does not satisfy him certainly neglects his own interest. So that's text 13. So the Lord is satisfied by the process of devotional service, consisting of the ninefold processes of Shravana, Kirtan, Vishnu, Smaranam, Archanam, Vandam, Dasyam. Archanam, Vandam, Dasyam, Atmani Vedanam, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandam, Dasyam, Atmani Vedanam. These are the 9 processes of devotional service. Brahma, he knows how to satisfy the Lord. And also all those engaged in the line of Brahma's plan of activities, disciplic succession, they also know how to satisfy the Lord. That's our point. Somewhere or other satisfy the Lord and get out of this illusory universe where we put ourselves in the center. So this, the point is, do your duty. Rule, but do it to please the Lord. That is the point. Now we will read text 14, 15, 16. 14. Shimanu said, O all-powerful Lord, O killer of all sins, I shall abide by your order. Now please let me know my place and that of the living entities born of me. So here comes the problem. 15. O Master of the demigods, please attempt to lift the earth which is merged in the great water, because it is the dwelling place for all the living entities. It can be done by your endeavor and by the mercy of the Lord. The great water mentioned in this connection is the Garbhodaka ocean, which fills half of the universe. So it was merged in the water of the Garbhodaka ocean. That was a problem. 16. Shri Maitreya said, thus seeing the earth merged in the water, Brahma gave his attention for a long time how it could be lifted. Purport. According to Jiva Goswami, the topics delineated here are of a different millennium. The present topics are of the Svetavara millennium, and the topics regarding the Sakshusa millennium will also be discussed in this chapter. So, to appearance of Varahadev. We will hear more about that. So, text 16. Maitreya said, yeah, we just had that. Just seeing the earth merge in the water, Brahma gave his attention for a long time to how he could be lifted. He was thinking, what to do now? And we get an insight in Brahma's thoughts 17. Brahma thought, while I've been engaged in the process of creation, the earth has been inundated by a deluge and has gone down into the depths of the ocean. What can we do who are engaged in the matter of creation? It is best to let the Almighty Lord direct us. Purport. The devotees of the Lord who are all confidential servitors are sometimes perplexed in the discharge of their respective duties, but they are never discouraged. They have full faith in the Lord, and He paves the way for the smooth success of the devotee's duty. That text 17. So this verse is like a sign of Saranagati, surrender by the Lord. And this Saranagati, this surrender, is the natural position of the soul. Brahma was perplexed. He was indecisive, puzzled, unsure how to proceed, but he was not discouraged. So what does the purport mean? Let's read the purport. The devotees of the Lord, who are all confidential servitors, are sometimes perplexed in the discharge of their respective duties, but they are never discouraged. They have full faith in the Lord, and He paves the way for the smooth progress of the devotee's duty. So Krishna has His own schedule, His own plan, and we are an instrument in it. Nirmita matram, an instrument. So we read the next verses. 10. O sinless Vidura, all of a sudden, while Brahma was engaged in thinking, a small form of a boar came out of his nostril. The measurement of the creature was not more than the upper portion of a thumb. O descendant of Bharat, while Brahma was observing him, that boar became situated in the sky in a wonderful manifestation, as gigantic as a great elephant. Struck with wonder and observing the wonderful boar-like form in the sky, Brahma with great Brahmins like Marichi, as well as the Kumaras and Manu, began to argue in various ways. Is this some extraordinary entity in the pretense of a boar? It is very wonderful that he has come from my nose. First of all, this boar was seen no bigger than the tip of a thumb, and within a moment he was as large as a stone. My mind is perturbed. Is he the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu? Since Brahma is the supremest person in the universe, and he had never before experienced such a form, he could guess that the wonderful appearance of the boar was an incarnation of Vishnu. The uncommon features, symptomatic of the incarnation of Godhead, can bewilder even the mind of Brahma. While Brahma was deliberating with his sons, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, roared tumultuously like a great mountain. So it appears that great hills and mountains also have their roaring power, because they are also living entities. The volume of the sound vibrated is in proportion to the size of the material body. While Brahma was guessing about the appearance of the Lord's incarnation as a boar, the Lord confirmed Brahma's contemplation by roaring with his gorgeous voice. Brahmanam Masa Aristam Sa Vichottamam Svagarchitena Kabruba Patishvanayata Vibhu. The omnipotent Supreme Personality of Godhead enlivened Brahma and the other highly elevated Brahmins again by roaring with his uncommon voice, which echoed in all directions. Purport. This is 24. Sorry. I didn't follow on the screen. Brahma and other enlightened Brahmins who know the Supreme Personality of Godhead are enlivened by the appearance of the Lord in any of his multi-incarnations. The appearance of the wonderful and gigantic incarnation of Vishnu as a mountain-like boar did not fill them with any kind of fear, although the Lord's resounding voice was tumultuous and echoed audibly in all directions as an open threat to all demons who might challenge his omnipotency. So while the creation was going on, the earth fell into the Garbhodoka ocean, and it was not a simple thing for Brahma to lift the earth. So we have here heard about the appearance of the Supreme Lord. Now text 25. When the great sages and thinkers who are residents of Janaloka, Tapaloka and Satyaloka heard the tumultuous voice of Lord Boar, which was the all-auspicious sound of the all-merciful Lord, they chanted auspicious chants from the three Vedas. Can someone read the purport, please, of text 25?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, could I read again?
Yeah, yes, please, read.
The word Maya Maya is very significant in this verse. Maya means mercy, specific knowledge, and also illusion. Therefore, Lord Boar is everything. He is merciful, he is all knowledge, and he is illusion also. The sound which he vibrated is the boar incarnation, as the boar incarnation was answered by the Vedic hymns of the great sages in the planets Janaloka, Tapaloka, and Satyaloka. The highest intellectual and pious living entities live in those planets, and when they heard the extraordinary voice of the boar, they could understand that the specific sound was vibrated by the Lord and no one else. Therefore, they replied by praying to the Lord with Vedic hymns. The Earth planet was submerged in the mire, but on hearing the sound of the Lord, the inhabitants of the higher planets were all jubilant because they knew that the Lord was there to deliver the earth. Therefore, Brahma and all the sages, such as Bhrigu, Brahma's other son, and learned Brahmanas, were enlivened, and they concertedly joined in praising the Lord with the transcendental vibration of the Vedic hymns. The most important is the Brihan Naradiya Purana verse Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
So, Hare Krishna, these great sages on the higher planetary systems, they knew that the boar was the Lord. There was no doubt in their minds. And they were praising the Lord with these Vedic hymns. And that's, so people lack knowledge who God really is. But these sages, they recognized immediately the Varadev was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this was Krishna's plan to appear as Varadev. It is said Brahma was perplexed, but he was not discouraged. He surrendered to the Lord, and let's see what happens. And the Lord did the needful. We may also see that many times in our devotional life. We make plans for Krishna, then Krishna changes the plans. We will see that in the next canto also, beginning of the 4th canto, Priyavrata Maharaj was taking shelter of Narada Muni, and he was a Vairagi, he was going to renounce the world. And then Brahma comes and says, no, you have to become the king and a householder. So he had other plans for him. But because Brahma was perplexed because he could not perform such a deed, and only the Lord could do it. So then the Lord appeared. Text 26. Playing like an elephant, he entered into the water after roaring again in reply to the Vedic prayers by the great devotees. The Lord is the object of the Vedic prayers, and thus he understood that the Lord's prayers were meant for him. So, can someone read the purport, please? 26.
I can read. Oh, go ahead.
The form of the Lord in any shape is always transcendental and full of knowledge and mercy. The Lord is the destroyer of all material contamination because his form is personified Vedic knowledge. All the Vedas worship the transcendental form of the Lord. In the Vedic mantras, the devotees request the Lord to remove the glaring effulgence because it covers his real face. That is the version of the Ishopanishad. The Lord has no material form, but his form is always understood in terms of the Vedas. The Vedas are said to be the breath of the Lord, and that breath was inhaled by Brahma, the original student of the Vedas. The breathing from the nostril of Brahma caused the appearance of Lord Boar, and therefore the Boar incarnation of the Lord is the personified Vedas. The glorification of the incarnation of the sages on the higher planets consisted of factual Vedic hymns. Whenever there is glorification of the Lord, it is to be understood that Vedic mantras are being rightly vibrated. The Lord was therefore pleased when such Vedic mantras were chanted, and to encourage his pure devotees, he rode once more and entered the water to rescue the submerged earth. Thank you, Maharaj.
So, it is said in a property, the form of the Lord in any shape is transcendental and full of knowledge and mercy. So the deity is also an incarnation of the Lord. So, are we applying this to our lives? So the Lord is a destroyer of all material contamination because his form is personified Vedic knowledge. All the Vedas worship the transcendental form of the Lord, the transcendental form. Finally, the Lord reciprocated. The Lord was pleased when the Vedic mantras were chanted, and to encourage his pure devotees, he roared once more and entered the water to rescue the submerged earth. So he reciprocated with their glorifying him by chanting the Vedic hymns. So the most elevated personalities, they understood Vedasa Sarvam Amiva Vidya. That text 27. Before entering the water to rescue the earth, Lord Boar flew in the sky, slashing his tail, his hard hairs quivering, his very glance was luminous, and he scattered the clouds in the sky with his hoofs and his glittering white tusk. That in the purports we have the Jayadev's Das Avatar Stotra. Vashati Dashana Shikare Darani Tavalachna Shashini Kalanga Kalevani Machna Keshavadrita Sukara Rupa Jaya Jagadisharin Jaya Jagadisharin Jaya Jagadisharin. All glories to Lord Keshav, Krishna, who appeared as the boar. The earth was between his tusks, which appeared like the scars on the moon. Text 28. He was personally the Supreme Lord Vishnu and was therefore transcendental, yet, because he had the body of a hog, he searched after the earth by smell. His tusks were fearful, and he glanced over the devotee Brahmins engaged in offering prayers. Thus he entered the water. So the hog form of the Lord was not materially contaminated. His assumption of the form of a boar is only pastime, Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport. The Lord can perfectly play the part of any living entity. The gigantic feature of the boar was certainly very fearful for all non-devotees, but to the pure devotees of the Lord he was not at all fearful. On the contrary, he was so pleasingly glancing upon his devotees that all of them felt transcendental happiness. So the devotees felt transcendental happiness, and his glance pleased the Lord. So, 29. Diving into the water like a giant mountain, Lord Boar divided the middle of the ocean, and two high waves appeared as the arms of the ocean, which cried loudly as if praying to the Lord, O Lord of all sacrifice, please do not cut me in two, kindly give me your protection. 30. Lord Boar penetrated the water with his hoofs, which were like sharp arrows, and he found the limits of the ocean. Although it was unlimited, he saw the earth, the resting place of all living beings, lying as it was in the beginning of creation, and he personally lifted it. Now, we'll have the last verse for today, 31. Lord Boar very easily took the earth on his tusk and got it out of the water. Thus he appeared very splendid. Then his anger, glowing like the Sudarshan's wheel, he merely killed the demon Hiranyaksha, although he tried to fight with the Lord. Can someone read the purport, please?
I can read again, Maharaj.
Yeah, please.
According to Srila Jiva Goswami, the Vedic literatures describe the incarnation of Lord Varaha boar in two different devastations, namely the Chakshusha devastation and the Swayambhuva devastation. This particular appearance of the boar incarnation actually took place in the Swayambhuva devastation, when all the planets other than the higher ones, Jana, Mahar and Satya, merged in the water of devastation. This particular incarnation of the boar was seen by the inhabitants of the planets mentioned above, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti suggests that the sage Maitreya amalgamated both the boar incarnations in different devastations and summarized them in his description to Vidura.
So yes, this is comment of Jiva Goswami. There are two different devastations, and this is first is a description of both incarnations. We will hear a little more about that later on. We'll also hear later of the killing of Hiranyaksha in great detail. So because Vidura will ask later why Varadev killed Hiranyaksha. It's only mentioned here. So we will continue tomorrow with text 32 onwards. That finish the pastime tomorrow. So any comments or questions, please?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. May I ask a question?
Yes, sure.
Yes, Maharaj, in 13th purport, I think there was one term where it was said that it is individual self and super self. So I wanted to know the difference between the two, individual self and super self.
Yeah, that is in the purport of 13
13 or 14, I'm not.
or 14. 14 is
13 or 14.
that. I don't see it here, but individual self refers to the spirit soul, the jiva, and the super self is the supreme personality of God. It is a super soul, Paramatma.
After I look for the purport. After that, it was mentioned about the supreme self also. Higher than super self is the supreme personality of Godhead. I look for the
Yeah,
purport.
it is true that higher than the super soul is the supreme personality of Godhead, because the super soul is an expansion of the supreme personality of Godhead.
Thank you, Maharaj.
It's 3:13:13. It's in the chat. That's Everyone wants to satisfy senses, but above the senses is the mind. Above the mind is the intelligence. Above the intelligence is the individual self. That's the spirit soul. That's us. And above the individual self is the super soul. Super self. That's the super soul, Paramatma. And even above the super self is the supreme personality of Godhead, Bhagavan, because the super soul, the Paramatma, is the all-pervading aspect of Krishna, Bhagavan. And so the super soul is an expansion of Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj.
So that's what's meant here. And something else?
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Pratik, Paul. Yes.
Yes, Hare Krishna. Please accept my apology.
Sure.
I had one question. I had actually two questions. A question was that there it is written that the demigods or the sages read from the three Vedas. They read. So we hear about four Vedas. So how do we know that? I mean, if one Veda was missing at that time, or I did not understand that part.
Yeah, the three Veda. There are three Vedas that think if we, of course, you have Atharva Veda. That was and Atharva Veda expanded later in the Rig Veda, the Sama Veda, and the Yajur Veda. And that's called the Triveda, but let's see when Srila Prabhupada speaks about that in the purport, it's just very I just want to confirm that that it doesn't seem so simple to find it with the Yeah, I just want to confirm it, but these are the three Vedas, Atharva Veda. Well, in the beginning there was one Veda, and then Atharva Veda was divided in the Rig Veda, the other Veda, Sama Veda. I just wanted to confirm it, but that's it. These are the three Vedas. It's in it's the beginning of the first canto where Vyasadeva divided the Vedas. In the beginning there was one Veda. You can find that reference in the first canto. Something else?
Yes, Maharaj. Another question was from the first part of the shlokas that we are discussing is that Brahma is praising Manu for being obedient son. So, as you said that Emperor also describes that acceptance of authority in this age of Kali Yuga has become very difficult. And from recent examples, we see that in older times we used to find perfect people to follow, but these days it is, I mean, everybody is imperfect. So how a person knows whom to follow? Absolutely, like Swayambhu Manu could give in to the instructions of Brahma. Later we see Prabhupada is also mentioning that Sanak, Sanat and the four Kumaras they disobeyed Brahma for a higher purpose. So, I mean, how do we discriminate and develop this discrimination? I
Yes.
hope my question was clear.
Of course, like I said, Brahma was qualified to instruct, and the sons were submissive. So these are, and both must be there. We will learn in the fifth canto teachings of Vihe-Bhaktivaibhava. There it is said 5.5.18 Go nasasyat vajana nasasyat pita nasasyat janani nasasyat devam nasasyana patis nasasyan namokshaye samapeti mrityam. One who cannot deliver his dependence from the power of repeated birth and death should not become a spiritual master, should not become a father, should not become a husband, a mother, or a worshipful demigod. So that's the point. Nobody is qualified in Kali Yuga, even to be a father. And the sons are also not qualified sons. They don't have the quality of submission. So that's Kali Yuga. It's just impossible. And yes, therefore, what is our hope? Our hope is to do like the four Kumaras. They gave their life for a higher purpose. So we are giving our lives for the higher purpose by following the instructions of Srila Prabhupada in the line of Brahma. To follow Because that's the point that made before. Srila Prabhupada says that there were two lines, the material line and the spiritual line. So the material line in Kali Yuga, forget it. Everything is topsy-turvy. It won't work. So we take shelter of the spiritual line and follow the instructions of the spiritual master. That does not mean that you can just leave your family and say, oh, I give everything up. If you do that, and you give your life completely to the mission of Prabhupada and never come back, that's fine. But better not to take such a step if you don't have the qualifications to do that. So we have to see according to time and circumstances that good and bad is in everyone, and also in the parents. So if we can, we assist the parents in their old age as much as we can. But when the situation makes it impossible, which is many times the case, then you have no choice, and we take the spiritual path. I can say I did the same thing. I became a Hare Krishna devotee, and my entire family rejected me completely. We are now 50 years later, and I didn't hear anything from them. It's all gone. But what choice did I have? I was going to give up my Krishna consciousness and follow their demonic lifestyle? No. But if it's possible, yes, we assist them and we tolerate and so on. But if they reject us, what can we do? So we have to see time, place and circumstances. This, I find your point very important, because we can take wrong conclusions from it. And wrong conclusions from it in the name of following Shastra. No, we do the best to have good relationship with our parents, to the point that it is possible. If they are too sinful and if they make it really impossible, then we can only surrender to the mission of our spiritual master. So it's not an easy thing in Kali Yuga. Does that help to reflect on this point?
Yes, Maharaj. Another query was that could you reflect some more about why the four Kumaras leave Brahma, although Brahma was their spiritual master from whom they learned everything. But clearly Brahma could not see the high purpose for the four Kumaras. The four Kumaras got this inspiration from Krishna probably. So how do we understand that?
The point is that when Brahma was meditating, he was meditating in a liberated state. And when the four Kumaras were created, they were liberated. And they understood that material life is very dangerous. And they wanted spiritual life, a higher purpose. They wanted to become devotees of Krishna. And it's a higher purpose that, of course, Brahma had also, he has his mission, and they became somewhat disturbed by it, but they were self-realized. A self-realized person has no business in this world. Since they were liberated, free from sin, free from no attachment to this world, they were not in the fold doing that. They were already liberated. If you are not on the liberated platform, you cannot imitate that, because if you are not on the liberated platform, then following the instructions of Brahma and doing the work he says is the way for purification and the attainment of liberation. But they had no point to attain liberation. They were already beyond. So they did not do that. That's in Bhagavad Gita. A self-realized person has no business in this world, no duties. But if you are not self-realized, then you must do your duty to purify yourself. Artificially taking sannyas, that's condemned. So their spiritual status was different. That they were not conditioned souls, and therefore they had the right to say no. And it's not that they had no service. They became spiritual masters, and they were teaching everyone how to attain liberation to 4 processes: Sankhya, Yoga, Tapasya, Vairagya. And they are still spiritual masters today, because they are the heads of the Kumara Sampradaya. There are 4 Sampradayas, the Kumara Sampradaya. And we are hearing from Maitreya Muni. Maitreya Muni is in disciplic succession from these 4 Kumaras. He's in the Kumara Sampradaya, and we are learning from him through the questions of Vidura. So they are most elevated. But if we are not liberated, nobody is liberated by birth. There are a few exceptions by Krishna's mercy. There's the 4 Kumaras, and it's also Sukadev Goswami. He got the blessing of Krishna to be liberated from birth. But otherwise, all the others, they are not liberated, and they must purify themselves. They must follow the instructions of the spiritual master. Does that clarify?
Yes, Maharaj, thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you very much. Anything else? Good. Then we continue tomorrow. We will finish this chapter and enter already the next chapter, because we will probably end on Wednesday with chapter 14. So we'll finish the chapter tomorrow and get the introduction of chapter 14 also. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Jai Prabhupada.
Thanks a lot, Maharaj.
Hare Bol.